Hello, my name is Aaron Sparks, and today I'll be speaking to you about video games, specifically when games are more than just games. Did you know that the most popular YouTube channel is owned by a gamer from Sweden? His name is PewDiePie. He began his YouTube career selling hot dogs and making videos on the side. He now has over 64 million subscribers and makes $11,000 per video from YouTube ad revenue. Games, the gaming industry, is bigger than the movie and music industry by a large margin. Avengers Infinity War on opening weekend made $257 million. That same year, Call of Duty World War II made $500 million in its first 3 days. So what? Well, video games are now a dominant part of our culture and entertainment, whether we realize it or not. And yet so many people know little about them. We're going to begin by talking about their history and where they came from. Many people assume that Comm was the first video game. This is not the case. One of the first games was Tennis for Two in 1958. 4 years later, another game called Space War was also made. These games were not made for entertainment, with entertainment as a primary goal. Their goal was to test the limits of another new invention, computers. It was 10 years after Space War was released that Comm entered the market. And then games took off. The arcade golden age from 1979 to 1983 spawned many of gaming's more retro icons, Pac-Man and Galaga being the ones that many people think of. And then, 2 years after that, Nintendo releases the Nintendo Entertainment System, beginning the console shift of games. 3 years later, Sega Genesis enters as Nintendo's competitor. And then in the 1990s and 2000s, we see a surge of 3D graphics being used in the gaming spheres. And then in 1994, Sony enters the fray with the PlayStation 1 or PSX. And then 7 years after that, Microsoft emerges with the Xbox and their flagship game of Halo. Now we get to the modern day, where gaming has broken down into three primary markets: the consoles, the PCs, and mobile games. VR is slowly gaining a foothold, but time will tell where it goes. Gaming has influenced our culture, whether we realize it or not. One of the more obvious ways is its generation of memes. How many of you have heard someone say Leroy Jenkins before they usually do something really, really dumb? That came from a game. If you've ever heard someone make a joke about taking an arrow to the knee, that also came from a game fairly recently too. If you've ever heard someone yell out, "But cake is a lie," or something to similar effect, they may not know it, you may not know it, but that came from a game as well. Gaming has also influenced our acceptance of what are called geeks. The term began as a slur for people who are more tech-savvy and not as athletic or attractive. And yet, the more we play games, the more we needed geeks to help fix, make, or maintain these games that we grew to love so much. Finally, our technology has been influenced by games. VR, as I said before, is slowly gaining a foothold, with systems like the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive now being more and more available to the public. But as I said before, time will tell. Now, what draws people to these games? What makes it so fun to sit with a TV, a console, and a controller? Well, gaming researcher and co-author of the book Blue to Games, Scott Ridgway, states that gaming helps fill 3 basic needs: competence, autonomy, and relatedness. If you want to feel competent, you will likely play games that involve puzzles or points, a lot of points. You want to feel a sense of accomplishment, a sense of being able to do something to overcome a challenge. If you value your autonomy, you want to make choices that impact the world around you, even if it's only a virtual world. If you want to relate to people, you play a multiplayer game. A game that forces you to interact with people, whether you're competing with them or cooperating with them. Games also draw more people because they are more interactive than movies, books, or TV shows. You are the hero. You are a part of the story, and that story only moves forward when you do. And also, these stories are more interactive and also largely unique from player to player. No gaming experience is going to be 100% the same. In summary, you may not play games, but you more than likely know someone who does. And now that you know more about where games came from and what draws people in, the next chance you have to play a video game, try it out. You may like it. GG.